Water relations in plants. Today we shall discuss about the water relations in plants with different types of the terminologies. Water absorption mechanism. As we know that all types of the water that is present within the soil system is absorbed by the soil. The mechanism of the water from the soil surface through the root system. The root system is consisted of the columnar root or the lateral root cap that is responsible for the absorptions of the water. The very tip is covered with a sheathing of root cap. This is a root cap. Both portions, this portion as well as this portion, both are considered as the root cap, which protects the delicate underlying tissues as the root pushes its way through the soils. The fundamental or the functional study of living process is known as the physiology, or in terms of the plant physiology. Plant physiology deals with the water relations, that is diffusion, osmosis, absorption, transpiration, and ascent of sap, photosynthesis, respiration, photorespiration, growth hormones, movements and the locomotion, vernalization, and seed germination. All processes are related to the plant physiology. The plant absorbs water and soluble mineral salts from the soil through the root system. As this picture shows very clearly how the plants get nourishment as well as the water and different types of the nutrients from the soil surface by producing the roots and the uh, small portion of the roots that is known as the uh, primary, secondary, or tertiary roots. On the tertiary roots, there are small, very small, thin-like structures, hair-like structures that is known as the root hairs that absorb the water from the soil surface. The plant absorbs water and soluble mineral salts from the soil through the root system. The unicellular hair present the root that facilitate to the water absorption through the soils. Plant cells comprise a cell wall and protoplast. The term protoplast is usually used to refer collectively the plasma membrane and the protoplasm. Normally, the plant cell comprises three components. Number one, the vacuole, protoplasm, or the cell wall. These compartments are separated by plasma membrane. The tonoplast is found between the vacuole and the protoplasm, whereas the plasma lemma is found between the protoplasm and the cell wall. The protoplasm of one cell is connected to the other with the help of the plasmodesmata. The plasmodesmata are the tiny pores, are the passage between the two types of the cells or in the cell walls of the two types of the cells. The plasma membrane is collectively permeable in nature. It permits some materials to pass through and not others. Water is the most essential factor for plants. Vital functioning, plants cannot survive without it. The plant cells become turgid by water, giving temporary mechanical support to the young plants. Small portions of the plant water absorbed by the plants is retained in plant cells, whereas the most water goes out of the surface of the plants by a vital process that is known as the transpiration. The first mechanism in water relations is known as the water potential. Water potential. The potential energy possessed by water is termed as the water potential, or the total kinetic energy of a molecule is called the water potential, or it may also be described as or defined as the chemical free energy of water in its purest form is also called the water potential. The purest form of the water means no other molecules are present within the water. This means that the water potential is always a lowest value. The term of water potential is usually often used to explain the direction in which flow of water will occur from one cell to another, from one part of the plant to the other part of the plant. This is known as the water potential. Water potential always flows from a region of higher concentrations or to the region of the lower concentrations. Water potential is designated with the symbol psi. P is silent, and this symbol is known as the psi. The other This water potential is the major driving factor behind this movement in the difference between the free energies of water on two sides of the selectively permeable membrane. In this picture, you can see that this is this arm of the picture shows that the water potential is zero. However, when few amount of salt or some other molecules are dissolved within the pure water, the potential of water will be decreases. That will be known as the negative number or the negative values of the or negative water potential. The free energy molecules from water termed as the water potential. Free energy means that the all molecules within this system, the water molecules, only water molecules, which is in pure form, no other types of the materials, molecules are present within the system. The such type of the free energy, each water molecule has its own energy that is known as a free energy. This is basically known as the water potential. Water potential is measured in terms of the pressure. The unit of water potential is the known as a Pascal. The water potential of pure water is always zero at osmotic temperature and pressure. Hence, all solutions at atmospheric pressure have lowest water potential than water, which means they have a negative value. Water potential is expressed as the difference between the potential of a solution in each state and the potential of same solution in a standard state. The addition of solutes lower the water potential. As we can see in this picture that the pure water is that water having the 0 kilopascal energy. Kilopascal energy means that all energies are retained by the water molecules within the pure system. However, when a small amount or the little amount of the solute is added within this water, in this form the solution. However, if the pure energy of each water molecule decreases, and this shows the negative water potential that is known as the negative 100 kilopascals. However, solutions is made when more amount of the solute is added within this system. It means that the water potential becomes more negative. In other words, we can say that the each pressure or the force of each water molecule decreases because of the presence of solute molecules present within the spaces between the water molecules. That spaces basically indicates the pressures. Since the water potential of a pure water is zero, all other water potential values will be negative. Hence, the water movement occurs in osmotic or other systems from regions of higher concentrations to lower concentrations. It means that this is less negative. To a lower water means that more negative. The water potential of any solution is affected by three factors. Number one, concentration, pressure, as well as the gravity of the soil or the earth. In this picture, the concentration of water molecules is higher in those conditions. This picture shows that the higher water potential and lower water potential when water molecules present outside when higher water molecules are present outside of the cell, then water moves from outside to the cell. However, in case of when cell is turgid, it means that the water molecules are higher. The concentration of water molecules are higher within the cell as compared to the outside of the cell. Then water molecules moves from the cell to the environment. That is known as the higher water potential and lower water potential concentration gradient. Water potential can be represented by this equation: the solute potential, the pressure potential, and the gravity potential. In case of the plant cell, only solute potential and the pressure potential are essential and considered as the water potential, which is equal to the solute potential plus the pressure potential. These two terms basically form the power of the water. According to the equation, when water moves into the cell from outside, the hydrostatic pressure potential increases, which results in an increased water potential of the cell. and difference between the inside outside water potential is decreased. On the other hand, the concentration of the solute when increases in the cell, the solute potential is lowered and thus water potential is reduced. Thus, due to the water potential gradient, the water from outside flow inside of the cell. The water moves out of the cell and pressure is applied to the cell. The external pressure raises the water potential of the cell, and hence the difference in water potential inside and outside will be such that water will be expelled out from the cells. Hence, the two basic factors that affect the water potential are solute and the external pressure. This diagram, by this diagram, the water potential movement of the water molecules can easily be understood. Diffusion. The diffusion is the process or the passive movement of individual molecules in all directions from regions of higher concentrations to an area of lower. In other words, we can say that the diffusion is the process in which the molecules of any type, that may be gases or the liquid, move from higher concentrations to the lower concentrations. The flow of volume molecules is directly proportional to the difference in the concentration. Diffusion is faster in gases than in liquids, as we know that in case of the diffusion, the movements are random and independent of each other. It occurs along a concentration gradient and kinetic energy and convert solvent into solution. Its value is always greater for a pure solvent, that is the solution. If the sugar solution is made in water, diffusion pressure is lower than the waters. The diffusion rate is proportional to the temperature, kinetic energy, diffusion pressure deficit. In this graph, it can be understand that when the temperature rises, the diffusion is also increases. When the temperature decreases, the diffusion process is also decreases. It means the kinetic energy of the individual molecules or the diffusion molecules as well as the external temperature both are essential to determine the diffusion process. The rate of diffusion is inversely proportional to the density of the medium, humidity, size of the solute, water molecules of the solute, and distance between the diffusing particles. All these factors are the things are responsible to determine the diffusion process. The examples of the diffusion are of water vapor from leaves to the atmosphere and supply of carbon dioxide from atmosphere to the leaves for photosynthesis. Every liquid has a fixed diffusion pressure. A pure solvent has a maximum diffusion pressure because of the all types of the molecules are the pure, not other types of the molecules are present within the pure system. When some amount of solute is added, this diffusion pressure decreases. This deficit in diffusion pressure of the solution due to addition of solute is termed as the diffusion pressure deficit. Diffusion pressure deficit. In other words, we can say that the deficit in is the diffusion pressure. Basically, this is the diffusion pressure or the pressure of the molecules of the solution which are present in the solution due to the addition of solute. With the increase of the pressure of the decrease with the increase of the pressure of the solution with the increasing concentration of the solute particles is known as the diffusion pressure deficit. The next is the osmosis. It involves a movement of water from its lower concentration to its higher concentration through a semi-permeable membrane. This is the difference between the osmosis and the diffusion. In case of diffusion, there is no involvement of the semi-permeable membrane. That is the semi-permeable membrane in case of osmosis system or osmotic system. However, in osmosis process, this membrane is a necessary. Otherwise, the process will be the diffusion process. When a permeable membrane separates concentration or dilute solution, the solvent moves from concentration solution to diffusion solution. This process is termed as the osmosis. Osmosis involves the movement of solvent from higher water potential to the lower, or from higher free energy to the lower free energy. Osmosis does not take place in isotonic solution. It is visible only in the living cells. It continues till the equilibrium occurs between the hydrostatic pressure and the osmotic pressure. It can be either endosmosis or the exosmosis. During the endosmosis, solvent movement occurs into the cells from the surrounding, and the cell become turgid. In this picture, we can understand the osmotic or the solute potential. The pressure developed by a solution when separated from its pure solvent using a semi-permeable membrane, that we have already known, that is known as the osmotic potential or osmotic pressure. The osmotic pressure or the osmotic potential is generated when we can say that the movement of the water molecules or the solute molecules present within the water, uh, what movement from higher concentrations to the lower concentration, that is known as osmotic potential. The osmotic potential of pure solvent is regarded as zero. So the osmotic potential for solution is always positive, because with the increasing the with the increasing or the addition of the solute particles within the water molecules, the water potential decreases or osmotic potential in, increases. Then is the turgor pressure. The hydrostatic pressure generated when solvent particles enter the cell and the cell membrane pushes the cell wall is termed as the turgor pressure. In this diagram, this mechanism can be understood very easily. First of all, when the cell of the plants have low water molecules, it absorbs water from outside to the inside of the cell. However, when cell become turgid, it pushes, or all types of the water molecules, the solvent water molecules pushes from inside to the outside of the cell wall, that is known as the turgor pressure. Basically, turgor pressure is always sometimes negative or sometimes positive. It becomes positive when the water molecules dissolve the solute particles. In case of the plasmolyzed cells, negative water TP is believed to be present. The turgor pressure. The turgor pressure maintains turgidity and growth of the cell. It provides necessary energy to plumule to come out and aids in the penetration of the radicle into the soil during the germination of the seeds. This describes that when seed germinates, it produces small, very thin, elastic, turgid root tip that is able to penetrate within the soil particles. This help to have the penetration within the soil systems. Then is the water pressure, wall pressure. When the cell wall becomes slightly turgid, it exerts an equal opposite pressure in a turgid cell, which is known as the wall pressures. In case of turgid cells, it is equal to the turgid pressures. Then is the diffusion pressure deficit. The difference between the diffusion pressure of the pure solvent and solution termed as the diffusion pressure deficit. This is osmotic parameter that is reason for the entry of water into the plant cells. It determines the direction of the osmosis, however, is also determining the suction pressure. It is also known as the suction pressure. This diagram shows the difference between the osmotic potential and the turgor pressure, which is generally known as the diffusion pressure deficit. Then the term plasmolysis. The plasmolysis, this is a condition when a protoplast of a plant cell is placed in a hypertonic solution. The protoplast shrinks due to the osmosis is termed as the plasmolysis. In other words, we can say that when protoplast of the cell decreases the water molecules within the system, the water molecules are expelled out from the cell or a protoplast or a cytoplast. Then the cell become plasmolyzed. This condition is known as the plasmolysis. The cell soon reaches its minimum volume after the shrinkage, and its exosmosis continues. Exosmosis means that the removal of water from the cell begins to proceed the contract from furnace process. This stage is termed as the incipient plasmolysis. If exosmosis continues further, there is further contraction of the protoplasmic membrane, thus reaching the complete plasmolysis. In this stage, the cell protoplasm, and the nucleus are fully contracted in the center of the cell, leaving the cell walls. The sugar or salt solutions fill the space between the cells. If the plasmolyte cells are placed in water, because of endosmosis of the water, there is a recovery of the negative condition, and this process is called the deplasmolysis. Deplasmolysis, in other words, we can say that when water molecules enters from environment or outside to the inside of the cell become turgid. This condition is known as the deplasmolysis. The plasmolysis assists in determining the nature of the membrane, the osmotic potential of the cell, and the living or the dead nature of the cells. Imbibition is the type of the diffusion where movement of water takes place among diffusion gradient. Because of this process, the dried and the half-dried matters absorb waters. These substances, such as the fibers, wood pieces, proteins, sponges, are termed as the absorbents. An absorbent is needed for the inhibition. Inhibition takes place. The cell wall and the protoplast also absorb water by the process of the imbibition. This diagram shows, or in this diagram, by easily can be understood that when dry seeds are placed within the water system, after few times, the seeds absorb water and become swollen. Similarly, when seeds are present within the soil, due to the moisture contents of the soil, seed absorb water and start germination. The two essential conditions for inhibition takes place. Number one, the water potential gradient between the surface of the absorbent and the liquid imbibed. Compatibility between two absorbent and the imbibed liquid. Heat is released during the imbibition process. That is, the imbibition is an exothermic reaction. Exothermic reaction means that when water moves inside of the body, it produces the heat. During the germination of the seeds, water enters the seed first due to the imbibition pressure potential that is equal to the IP, known as the IP.